with Thistle Verse, and today I'm going to be doing the Black History Month book tag. I was tagged in this last year by Kay of Read, Love, Listen, and I knew at the time my energy was just too low for me to get it out in February, so I waited a year and I'm going to try and get it out this Black History Month. So, this tag was created by Books by Lanes, and yeah, I think that's all the intro stuff I need to get out of the way. Let's get into the tag. So the first question is, what is a book everyone should be reading during Black History Month? One fiction and one nonfiction title. So for fiction, I would say The Conductors by Nicole Glover. This is a historical fantasy murder mystery set in Reconstruction era Philadelphia. I think this is a good choice because I interviewed Nicole Glover. I can link that down below. And she's very passionate about history and research. And I think this is a good story if you're like someone who's like not a big nonfiction reader. I think this is something where you would read it and you would be motivated to like look things up, research it on your own, and like read some more like history books. So I think this is like a good fiction choice. Aside from like the history components to it, I really loved the main characters, Hetty and Benji. They had a really great chemistry together as a married couple. This story like made me like really think about the emotional impact of that time and like the Freedmen's Bureau and all these other things that were going on. And then for the nonfiction title, I would recommend Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. This was an interview that Hurston conducted with one of the last survivors of the transatlantic slave trade, Cujo Lewis. And I think it was very impactful to hear this man tell his story in his own words. Hurston made a point to like keep the dialect in and like keep the sentence structure and like the accent and stuff and how he spoke in the transcription. And I think that in reading history, you realize, especially for the US, how little some things have changed. Like, there's still conversations in here about police brutality, conversations in here about like false like competition and like dichotomies between African Americans and Africans. Like Lewis talking about how people treated him because he had been someone who had been trafficked out of his homeland, as opposed to like there were some black people who had been born and grown up in the United States. It's just kind of wild to see like how quickly that narrative started. Also, it was interesting because there are some like facts about the transatlantic slave trade that I think are pretty commonly known now that I guess weren't commonly known at the time. And so it's interesting to see Hurston like reckon with that and like think through her feelings on that as she like finds out this new information. I think I read a blurb about how Hurston is very open and unbiased in her reporting of the interviews as opposed to other people at the time. Mainly, I think there were a lot of like white anthropologists at the time who had a very condescending view of black people. And like I think I would note that I think she's more open to what she's saying. Like I felt like she was trying to just like experience his words, but I would say that there were times where I felt like she was a little condescending towards Lewis. I would say it was like pretty brief, like maybe like 5 sentences in total, but on the whole, a good read. Next question is, which black booktuber would you recommend watching and why? So gotta give a list. And Jerry of Onyx pages, wonderful reviewer. I think a lot of her videos feel very cozy. Then I would say Sophia, a fantasy book addict. She's just a lot of fun. I enjoy her blooper reels. Then there's Miss WC Reader, who does like great discussion videos. It's just very funny to me because she like just started. Like I don't think she's even been on YouTube for a year. She's very good at getting engagement on her videos. Very, very savvy and very thoughtful, I think, in her discussions. Then there's Lucy of Lucy Reads. I really enjoy her dry sense of humor. I enjoy her cat cameos. Deidre of Shade Tree Reads. She's hosting a Sookie Stackhouse read along. She just does very fun stuff. Her discussion of that book was hilarious. A very fun sense of humor. And there's Bonnie of Books with Bonnie. I like her hauls. She just has a fun personality. There's Olivia's Catastrophe. I enjoy like her TBR content. And then Amber of Amber Dior. She does great bullet journal spreads. It's always very creative. I especially liked one that she did for Chronicles of Narnia because that was like her favorite series ever. I just feel like she puts a lot of love and effort into her bullet journal. There's Noria of Chronicles of Noria. Noria's hilarious. She's just like so energetic, so passionate, and reads, I think, very widely. Like I remember when I think I first started watching her, she was reading, to me it felt like more romance. It was more romance than what I was used to, but she also will read. contemporaries or fantasy. And there's Ray of Bookmark Chronicles, who's like a more recent watch for me. She's just very blunt and very funny, and I enjoy her reviews. And then there is Curly Top Reads. I enjoy their wrap ups. I think they read more like doorstopper fantasy. Like that's what I remember them picking up. Reviews may vary. I really enjoy her like unboxings, a lot of personality, and I also really like her reading setup. Then there's Erica the Broken Spine, who has a very wry sense of humor. She also hosts a lot of read-alongs, so I think she just kicked off the Poppy War Trilogy read-along, so that's something to keep an eye out for. And then there's going to be a discussion on, I believe, February 27th. And there's Brie of the Locked Politician. Brie is just wonderful. She's so funny, does great author interviews, very good at getting people comfortable and talking. She's so hardworking. Brie is one of the most like hardworking booktubers I know. I think the only person I know who's like more industrious than her might be Ashley of the Bookish Realm, another person to check out. Then there's, I already mentioned Ashley of the Bookish Realm. She's a librarian, and so I really appreciate her discussions around picture books and children's literature and comics, and also her insight into what it's like being a librarian. And there's Charity of Booked on Charity. She has a very soothing voice. I enjoy her videos. And she's introduced me to some like titles I hadn't heard of before because she's based in South Africa. And so I think there were some titles from South African presses I hadn't heard of before. And so that was really exciting to me. And then the last one I'd recommend is Dee Dee of Brown Girl Reading. She does wonderful, in-depth reviews. I love her stuff. And she's the creator of Read So Lit, which is a photo challenge that happens on Instagram. So definitely check her out. Next question is, what is your favorite book written by a Black author from an African country? I would say Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. I read this years ago, and it's huge. It's gigantic. It's like the size of almost a dictionary. I don't know how I got through it because I usually can't do like door stoppers, but it was so engaging. It's like a contemporary fantasy, I would say, mixed with political satire about this like dictator in this fictional African country and about this man who's kind of just trying to get by and ends up playing a role in the resistance to this dictator. I really enjoyed the sense of humor in the story and like the breadth of the critiques that he was making. It just felt like very multifaceted. The magic in this is very light. Like for a long time, it's unclear if the main character is actually accidentally casting magic or if he's just very clever. But I think towards the end, it becomes a little bit more concrete. Next question is, what is your favorite Black classic? I'm very basic. I would say either Wild Seed by Octavia Butler or Paradise by Toni Morrison. Beloved is usually my go-to Toni Morrison book, but like as I'm thinking on it, Paradise might be a new favorite from her. I just like how she writes about small town life and like these very little moments, and also how there's more to the little moments than like what you're seeing. Like there's discussions of Christianity and religion here, there's discussions of colorism and misogyny. There's discussions of like intergenerational conflicts and utopias and the difference between like your vision for your children or your grandchildren and the reality of what might happen. And in terms of Wild Seed, it's just like the first one I read by Butler. It felt like being trapped in this tiny room and it feels like there's no way out. And then you realize that there's like a fault line in the ceiling and you have wings and just fly up and like bust out of the room. A very difficult, painful read, but also there's something about it that felt revelatory when I first read it. Next question is, which movie or book to movie adaptation or documentary would you recommend watching? And I'm like not the person to ask for that. The way everything I watch is like a cartoon for like 12-year-olds. I should probably watch other people's videos to get recommendations. So next question is, what's on your TBR for Black History Month? Realistically, I'm just going to read The Broken Kingdom by N.K. Jemisin. I'm hosting the Inheritance Trilogy read-along, and that's the book we're trying to get through this month. And I'm really not pushing myself to read too much this month. Like, Black History Month is good for Black creators for like visibility stuff, like especially in the US. But for me, just I feel stifled. Like I feel like I need to be doing something and running around, and then I just get like locked in, and I feel like I can't do anything at all. Like just trapped by all the things I should be doing and can't. So I'm mostly just gonna be like promoting old content on Twitter, and I'm really not super like, doing a TBR or doing all these readathons, but there are some readathons that I would like to boost even though I will not be participating. There is the Missy Elliott read along hosted by Shay of Shay with the Hobbies, Britt Writerly, and the author Tuber Day. And I put together a quick Black SFF TBR for this one, so I'll share that here even though I don't plan on sticking to it. So this is like a really fun readathon. I really love the concept. I really love the announcement videos that rolled out. Trip down memory lane, have you revisiting old favorites of Missy Elliott and some songs that like I hadn't listened to before. So in terms of the prompts, there's Gossip Folks, which was LGBTQ rep, and for that one you could read And This Is How to Stay Alive by Shingai and Jerry Kagunda. For this one, I'm pretty sure that like there is a secondary character, the protagonist's brother, who is gay. I don't know if there's any more LGBTQ rep in this book. And then there is 1 Minute Man, a black romance, and for that, Secret Fantasy by L.L. Farmer. I've been trying to read more fantasy romance, as I mentioned earlier, and I saw a blogger, Sharonda Isadora, praising this book, and so I wanted to give it a read. It's supposed to be like a contemporary fantasy romance set in this majority black town, where I think everyone is like a magician or something. So that sounded really cool. Then the next prompt is Work It, Coming of Age Trope, and for that one, A Jigsaw of Fire and Stars by Yaba Badu. Don't know a whole lot about this book. I'm assuming it fits based on the synopsis because it's about a teenager who kind of like washes up on the shores of Britain and doesn't know where she came from, doesn't really know who her family is, and now she's like getting haunted by dreams that may point her to where she came from. And I think just based on like the age range for this book and like the synopsis, I think this might have some coming of age stuff in there. And the next prompt is The Rain, a backlist book that's 5 or more years old, and for that I would say The Brothers Jetstream Leviathan by Zigzag Claiborne. This is like a humorous, surreal sci-fi story. And the next prompt is Lose Control, multi-POV. And for that, I think The Royal Heretic by Sarah Macklin. This is like a historical fantasy, like Egypt-inspired fantasy. And it sounds like it's going to be following multiple different people based on reviews I've read of it. The next prompt is Throw It Back, set in high school. And for this one, I was thinking of The Black Veins by Aisha Monet. This is about a group of high schoolers who take a magical road trip. And so I'm assuming that they're going to spend some of the time in high school, at least at the beginning. So I figured this would work. And the last prompt is Pass That Dutch, Black Book recommendation. And for that, I would say War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi. I actually have this out from the library now, and I own a copy of Brothers Jetstream Leviathan, so maybe I'll actually try to read those this month. We'll see. But this is one that a booktuber, Melon Eclectic, spoke highly of. It's like a dystopian about the aftermath of the Biafran Civil War, and it follows a group of girls who are amputees who are kind of hiding out in this camp. And I believe they're soldiers. I don't remember what side they're fighting for. And then for the other 2 readathons, I just wanted to uplift. There's the For the Culture readathon hosted by Ty's Books. This one is prompts are based on different black sitcoms. I hear that one's a lot of fun. And then there's a Blackathon created by Jesse of Bow Ties and Books. I don't know all the hosts. I know that I think Starla of Starla reads, Ari of Borquare reads, and Shane of Luxurious Blue are also co-hosts. I feel like there's at least 3 more that I don't know about this time, but that's happening this month. And then the last question is, which new releases by Black writers are you looking forward to most this year? So I haven't done as good a job staying up to date on new releases as I would like, but I'm really looking forward to Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas. I heard about this from Bina of Miss WC Reader. It's middle grade fantasy about this young girl who finds out that she is a wizard, and she's going off to wizard school, and like no one else in her family has magic, so that kind of puts her at odds with people in the school who have more established magic. It's kind of reminding me of Amari and the Night Brothers, this synopsis, but I just love the cover. It gives me Kiki's delivery service. It looks very cute. I'm excited to give this a read. The next book is Cameron Battle and the Hidden Kingdoms by Jamar J. Perry. This is another middle grade fantasy about this young queer boy who finds out this hidden kingdoms and some magic, and I don't know much about it, but Curly Top Reads has been saying this book's praises, so I want to check it out. Then there's A Comb of Wishes by Lisa Stringfellow. I've been hearing mostly good reviews. I know Miss WC Reader has a review up. It's about this young girl who finds a comb that grants wishes, and it belongs to this potentially malevolent mermaid spirit, and so she just has to be careful what she wishes for. I love a mermaid story. I'm really excited for this middle grade fantasy. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And next up is an adult sci-fi, Sweep of Stars by Maurice Broaddus. Don't know much about it. I know Miss WC Reader got an arc, so looking forward to her review on it. I just don't read as much sci-fi, and so it'll be good to read some more of it. And also, then there's The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport. This is like an adult sci-fi fantasy blender, and like I really love that genre combination, so I'm very excited for this title. And the next two titles are from Neon Hemlock Press, which is a press devoted to publishing queer speculative fiction novellas. There are no covers at this time. So there's Empire of the Feast by Bendy Barrett. I read a short story from him, Duppy, which was published in Baffling Magazine. It was like a beautiful choose your adventure type, like very sensual, very detailed short story, and I loved it, so I'm very excited to read this story from him. I don't know much about Empire of the Feast. I just know there's like this ruler who doesn't remember really who he is, and there's some like erotic rituals that he has to maintain to keep away this like otherworldly horror that's trying to tear apart his kingdom. It sounds really intriguing. I'm very much looking forward to it. And then there's Unnecessary Chaos by Brent Lambert, which is kind of like a spy versus spy romance set in the secondary world. And I just really enjoy Brent Lambert's writing. I'm excited to read a novella from him. So that was all for today. Thank you for watching. If you watch the video and you feel like you want to do the tag, like please tag me when you post it. I'd love to watch it. Take care and have a good day. Goodbye.